BMW brought back its legendary 8 Series flagship nameplate for 2019, and for 2020, they've done a few things to it. First of all, they've let the M division get their hands on it, building the first ever M8. The second thing they've done is repeat one of the best decisions they ever made in the last generation with the 6 Series, and that is turn this car into a Gran Coupe. You see, for the 2021 model year, BMW is actually not going to offer the coupe and convertible versions of the M8. This Gran Coupe is going to be the only one you can get, and for good reason. The Gran Coupe in BMW parlance means that it is a 4-door car. This is longer, lower, and more practical than the 2-door version of this car, but I think it looks even better, which is why this is going to be the only one you can get for 2021. Let's go ahead and see what the M8 Gran Coupe is all about. Now, when the 8 Series coupe and convertible first came out, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little disappointed. I didn't think that they looked that sexy to really be worth the cost. And I said to myself, you know what's gonna fix that? A Gran Coupe model, and boy was I right. This guy is about 9 inches longer, about 1.5 inches wider, and a little bit taller, about 2.3 inches taller than the regular M8 coupe and convertible, and boy oh boy, it looks fantastic. That extra wheelbase, about 7 inches, just makes this car look like a torpedo. It's so long and low. This may look like black to you, but it's actually a really deep color of brown. It's a great color if you want to go for something different other than the boring BMW colors that most people go for. There's also a nice purple available. Please go for that one. You get 20-inch wheels as standard. 21s are optional as well. You might be able to tell we have gold brake calipers on ours. That means we have the optional carbon ceramic brakes, 6-piston in the back, floating calipers in the rear. Now, those are carbon ceramic. They're about $8,000. That's a lot of money, and I've found that these do a great job of stopping the car, but I still think you should just opt for the normal brakes. Now, back here we have this very coupe-like roofline. We've got a carbon fiber roof that comes standard. You can get a glass roof as well, but if you want the lowest weight, that's what you're going to be able to get, is carbon fiber. Now, the Gran Coupe is about 185 pounds more than the regular coupe, but I think it's worth it for the added practicality. And just look at how good this rear end looks. It's got like a little ducktail thing going on. There's so many beautiful lines and curves back here. I easily think this is the best looking of the M8 models. Oh, it got shady. So for $130,000 starting, yep, that's a lot of money. The M8 better have a darn nice interior, and luckily it does. Everything in here feels incredibly premium. Got this big chunky M steering wheel that's specific to M cars. We've got the M stitching with the signature M colors, red, blue, and teal. We also have extended leather everywhere. That comes as part of a package, but pretty much every surface you touch is either metal. The roof lining is Alcantara. I've got this nice sporty M seat that's heated and ventilated as part of a package. No massage though. You know, I kind of wish this car did have massage, although I've been in other models like the X5M and X6M that have it. It's not the best massage, but I think somebody spending this amount of money might want that. We have an M specific gear lever. The crystal shifter that you get in like the M850i is not found here. You get, again, the M stitching on here. I love this latest iteration of iDrive, which is the infotainment system here. As you can see, it is a touch screen now. It has been for several model years now. You can also still control it on the rotating knob, up, down, left, and right functions as well. You also have home buttons to take you back to the menu. You have shortcut buttons to take you to the map, your media, etc. You also have gesture controls, which I've never been a big fan of those on BMW. I'm Jewish. I talk a lot with my hands like this, so I tend to activate it unintentionally, but it seems like they've done some fine tuning of it and it works really well. So for example, if you want to raise the volume, I'm going to try and do this over here so it doesn't actually activate. You just kind of go like this and it will activate the sound, which is really cool. You can skip tracks by using your thumb going like this. You can turn it on and off with 2 fingers. It works really well. Or if you want, you can say, hey BMW. Hey BMW. Change the temperature to 68 degrees, please. She's thinking about it. There she goes. So you can have it do things like that, which is really cool. As you can see, it didn't get it the first time, but I've noticed that it is really responsive. So in that specific instance, it didn't do that well, but trust me, it does do quite well most of the time. And all of these controls are fairly easy to use too. You can do it here on the iDrive, or luckily there are physical controls here. Really easy to get to your heated and ventilated seats as well. Real easy to get to your radio controls. You still have a physical volume knob, and I love how they include these preset buttons here. They're programmable, so you can set it to radio stations, you can set it to navigation destinations. So if, for example, if you're driving to work and you want to set that into the GPS, you can save that as number 7. Always love this. I hope they never get rid of this function. Now let's talk about some of the very specific parts of this car that make it an M car. So for example, I mentioned the shifter. It works a little bit weird. It's not like any normal shifter, but they have made it slightly easier to comprehend. It sits in this neutral position. If you want to go into neutral, you kind of bump it over to the left. For reverse, it's up and to the and up, left and up, I'm sorry. And if you do that, it's going to trigger these amazing backup cameras, 360 camera as well. You can see trajectory lines. When you get close to an object, it has sort of like augmented reality things that pop up. That's amazing. If you want to put it in drive, you go over to the right, click it over again, puts you into sequential mode. That's fully manual. It will not shift by itself. And then you just push P for park. And within drive and sequential, you have tons of driving modes, and that leads me into this button, which is setup. Oh boy, this is where you're going to need a degree in mechanical engineering to understand this car. If I push setup, it's going to take me to the setup of the car, where I can control all of the various aspects of the car. The engine, I can have efficient, sport, Sport Plus, I can cycle through those by clicking on iDrive. Chassis, that's the suspension stiffness. Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus. Steering, Comfort or Sport, that's going to change how heavy the steering rack is. I leave that boy in Comfort. Sport is way too heavy for me. Braking, this car has a brake-by-wire system. The brakes aren't actually physically connected to the pedal. You can change the feel and feedback of the pedal, Comfort and Sport. I've found just leave that in Comfort is fine. And MX Drive, now this is a really important mode here. Now if I go ahead and hold the traction control off button, that's going to defeat traction control and stability control. Now I can configure my MX Drive. So I can have all-wheel drive that's going to split the power evenly between all 4 wheels. 4-wheel drive Sport, that's going to reduce the front wheels a little bit, so it's going to send more power to the rear wheels. Or if I want to do smoky burnouts, I can completely deactivate the front wheels. So now this is a strictly rear-wheel drive car. Now remember, traction and stability control are off when you do this. So please be careful if you're going to try this out on a normal road. And this is so complicated. You can have so many different combinations of settings here. And if you want to save those, BMW gives you 2 modes here. You have an M1 and M2 button. Just push that once again to confirm, and it will default to whatever you have it set to. So you can go full sport with rear wheel drive, you can set it to full comfort, whatever you want. I've set it up exactly like this. Engine in Sport Plus, chassis in comfort, steering in comfort. I have the brakes set to sport, and I have the all-wheel drive system set to its sport setting. I also have my M2 button, and if I push that, you'll notice the only thing that changes is that's the rear wheel drive mode if I want to get a little bit silly. And in addition to all of these settings, you also have an exhaust button that's sticky. So luckily, if you turn on the loud exhaust, it will stay on even when you start the car off. That's good for cold starts. And I also have this M mode button here. You can see my digital gauge cluster switches to a sportier design with 2 tachometers, so it's more front and center. The head-up display changes as well. If you opt for the M8 Competition, you get an even more simplified track view as well. Now back here, the Gran Coupe roofline is not all that great, but the elongated wheelbase that I mentioned earlier is going to pay dividends with rear legroom. I've got 36.6 inches of rear legroom back here, which is enough that I can actually fit in it. In the M8 Coupe and convertible, you're only going to get about 29.5 inches of legroom, so good luck getting anybody back there. BMW also says that you get a lot more shoulder room in the Gran Coupe, which again pays dividends if you actually want to have 4 people in here. And I mentioned 4 people. This is technically a 5-seater, but if you can see right here, this center console is literally right here with air vents. So unless you want air being blown into your center region, there's really no elegant way to sit here. I'm gonna have to come over here, sit here, and straddle either side of this center console, and now I really do not have a lot of legroom, and I'm not very comfortable on the backrest either. But if I do come around here and sit normally, this back seat is quite usable. Now, getting back to the trunk is the one area where the Gran Coupe doesn't really get you all that much more over a coupe. You get 15.5 cubic feet of storage space, which is only marginally better than the coupe, which has 14.8 cubic feet. So I kind of wish that BMW would have made the Gran Coupe version of the M8 a hatchback, sort of like the Audi A7 or the Kia Stinger. That would have just made it a little bit more practical. But again, with that back seat legroom, this is definitely the most practical 8 Series you can get. Time to get the M8 out on the road, and I'm gonna start with a launch control, so let me go ahead and push my M1 button once again to confirm. That's gonna set it up exactly how I like it. Comfort mode on the suspension and steering, sport everything else. So let's go ahead and see what this car will do off the line. Oh my God, oh boy. It's so fast. So this car has a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. It's in a bunch of M cars. It makes 600 horsepower with 553 pound-feet of torque. And they say that will rocket this car from 0 to 60 in just 3.1 seconds. And if I'm being honest, pretty sure those numbers are a conservative estimate. I'm pretty sure this car will crack into the 2s. They say the competition model will run a 3-second flat. That's definitely gonna crack into the 2s because the competition model is gonna bump you from 600 to 617 horsepower. And I've seen some independent track tests of the coupe version of this car, which is a little lighter, but I've seen that tested at 2.5 freaking seconds to 60. That's absolutely insane. So I believe that this Gran Coupe model will easily get under 3 seconds as well. Now the top speed is limited, as most German cars are, to 155, but if that's not adequate for you, you can get the M driver's package. Now that's gonna up the top speed to 190 miles an hour. That makes that 200-mile-an-hour speedometer not sound so stupid, now doesn't it? Now I haven't approached that level of speed in this car, but what I will tell you is that when you start getting into triple-digit figures in this car, you do not hit an aero wall. This engine just keeps pulling. So up until the level that I've driven this car, I have not reached a point where 600 horsepower has not felt adequate. So as far as the competition model, which is a big upgrade over the regular model in terms of price, I don't know if you need the extra 17 horsepower and 1/10 of a second off the 60-mile-an-hour time, because this is already, oh my God, one of the fastest cars. Like, I don't think you need to be any quicker than this. We've got huge ceramic brakes. Now you get huge 6-piston calipers no matter what kind of brakes you get on this car, but we've got these ceramic brakes, meaning this car will come to a stop in a hurry. I'm gonna go ahead and accelerate, hit the brakes. Oh boy, got some stuff rolling around in the car. It plants, all-wheel drive system grips, and pulls you right out. You get a little slidey because I have it in 4-wheel drive sport mode, but you never feel like this car is ever gonna kill you. It's really good in that way. And I've driven the coupe version of this car, the competition one, on the racetrack, and with the drivetrain in 4-wheel drive sport, it allows just the perfect amount of slide to make you feel like a hero without making you feel like you're gonna kill yourself. Now the steering, I told you I like to leave that in comfort mode. The latest steering on these M cars is not that, it doesn't deliver a lot of feedback. It feels very direct. Like if I move the wheel an inch, the car responds. So it's very responsive and it's very direct. It just doesn't communicate a whole lot back to you with the road, so it's kind of a one-way conversation. You're telling the car what to do, and it's not really communicating the rest of it back to you. So it's not the worst steering I've ever felt. It's just not quite as good as, you know, M cars of old. The ride is actually really good on this car. I will compliment BMW on that even in the Sport Plus mode, I never feel like this car is unbearable. Of course, it is riding on wide 20-inch wheels with a very small profile tire, so you are going to get some road noise on this, but the cabin is so well insulated that it doesn't really bother me all that much. So it is a very nice luxury car as well. Now, if you want to go for some hooliganism, I've programmed my M2 button to be rear wheel drive. So if I go ahead and really put my foot down now, I'm gonna get some slippage. Oh boy, even in a straight line, you can make the rear tires slide out pretty well. This car is strictly rear wheel drive. Now, if I go ahead and put my foot down like a crazy person, you can get the back end to step out really well. You can also do a big smoky burnout in this car. So it kind of is the best of all worlds. Like, it would be competent on a track, although I don't think too many people are going to do that. It does feel quite large on a track too. Having driven the Coupe on the racetrack, it is quite large, but it works really well as an everyday driver. It's not very fuel efficient. You're going to be getting 15 mpg in the city, 21 mpg on the highway, so those numbers definitely are not great. And I don't love the brake pedal feel. As I mentioned, it's brake-by-wire. We've got the carbon ceramics, which are an $8,000 option that I would easily skip. This is a big car. You're not tracking it. Don't get the carbon ceramic brakes. I mean, maybe they'll be good because you won't have to replace them, but I don't think that's worth $8,000. But I don't like the brake-by-wire system because I haven't found it easy to modulate. It's great when you're driving really fast and you slam on the brakes, but in normal traffic and stuff, I've found that it's just a little bit unsmooth to stop. So if you want just like the ultimate long distance, you know, cross-country tourer, this thing is absolutely amazing. You're not gonna find too many vehicles better than this, and you're gonna find even fewer that have the stability of all-wheel drive, but that's defeatable so that you can slide it a little bit like this. Ooh, I just got it really sideways there. You're not gonna find that in a whole lot of cars, but if I'm being honest, I think that the M850i, the version of this car that only has 523 horsepower, is gonna be fine for most people. I love that car. It doesn't have the defeatable rear-wheel drive mode, but 523 horsepower feels plenty to me, and I think for 99% of buyers, that's the one you're probably gonna wanna buy. So that was the 2020 M8 Gran Coupe. If you're looking for a bonkersly fast car that's also incredibly comfortable for long distances, this is a great car starting at $130,000. Now, if you want the competition model, that gets you 617 horsepower, a 17 horsepower bump, a 10th shaved off the 0 to 60 time. You get some M seat belts, a track mode in the center display, and you also get 21-inch wheels. 143 grand for that, 13 grand extra. Not sure that it's worth it. This is the first time I've ever gotten to drive a non-competition version of the M8, and I think it's fast enough and it's expensive enough. With options, this car, as you see it, is about $153,000. Now, if you want my personal advice, the best savings is going to be to go down to the M850i Gran Coupe. That starts at just under $109,000. It's still the least expensive model in the M8 Trio at that level. The Gran Coupe costs less than the Coupe and the convertible, despite being bigger, despite being more practical, and I think being the best looking. The M8 Gran Coupe is definitely the best of the bunch, which is why it's going to be the only one you can get in 2021. I see no reason why you should get the Coupe or convertible. They just look anonymous to me. This is the best looking M car on the market right now, and I think you're making a really cool decision if you buy one. We really hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2020 BMW M8 Gran Coupe, but so many of our views come from non-subscribers. Come on guys, let's change that. Please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be alerted of all of our latest videos. It really goes a long way towards helping us make videos just like this one. I'll see you next time.